Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. A quick one guys, I will be telling you a very interesting African folktale story shortly, but our African storytelling pattern have changed because of the new YouTube monetization policy, I mean guideline. Yes, so they encourage creators right now to generate or to create authentic content, and I believe that creating authentic content probably means to show your face. So that is why I will be telling my African story with my face on the video, right? But I will still try to make it as lively as possible. Today I want to talk about a girl named Adaeze. In Nnewi there was a girl called Adaeze. People said she was the most beautiful person they had ever seen in their entire lives, and this is not just in Nnewi but in all surrounding villages too. People confirmed that Adaeze was truly beautiful. Adaeze was so beautiful that whenever she goes to the market to buy something, traders often forget to collect their money, and when she goes to the stream to fetch water, young men would walk into trees because they were busy staring at Adaeze. Adeze's skin was described as deep and smooth like the inside of a fresh kola nut, and her eyes were said to be bright and calm at the same time, like the surface of the river just before sunrise. Everyone in Nnewi was very fond of Adaeze's beauty, but unfortunately Adaeze herself was not happy because she knew something about her beauty, something that no one else knew. Every morning, before the rest of the village woke up, Adaeze went to the great river, Iyolu, that ran at the edge of Nnewi. She would kneel at the bank, look into the water and wait. And the reflection that looked back at her was not always her own. Sometimes the face in the river was more beautiful than hers. The same face, but brighter, more perfect, covered in more gold, more jewels, more light. It looked like her, but it was not her. It was the face of Ohammiri, the river goddess of Nnewi. And every morning, Ohammiri smiled at Adaeze through the water, and Adaeze smiled back. Because the truth was, they had been doing this since Adaeze was a small child, and Adaeze had never told a single person. Adeze's trouble began the year she turned 20. That year, 3 worthy-looking men came to her father's compound to ask for her hand in marriage. They were all handsome, they all looked wealthy, and they all looked like they came from a good family. They brought palm wine, goats, kola nuts, and a long list of gifts they were ready to give. Her father was very happy. He called it a blessing. He told Adaeze to choose. But that night when Adaeze went to the river, Ohammiri did not smile. The goddess looked at her through the water with a calm, serious face, and she spoke. Not loudly. Ohammiri never spoke loudly. Her voice came up through the water like a whisper carried by the current. Do not choose any of them, my daughter. The one who is meant for you has not yet arrived. If you rush and choose wrongly, you will bring a great sorrow upon yourself and upon this village. Adaeze went home and told her father she needed more time, but her father was not pleased with her request. More time for what? He said. 3 good men have come. What else are you waiting for? She could not tell him the truth. She could not say, the river goddess had told me to wait. They would think she had gone mad. The pressure came from everywhere. Her aunties, her mother, and the older women in the village. They all had said the same thing. You are not getting younger. Adaeze was tired. She was confused. She was alone with a secret too big to carry. And then one evening, against everything inside her that said no, she said yes to one of the men. His name was Ikenna. He was rich and handsome, but nobody in the village knew it yet. He was very dangerous. The morning after she said yes to Ikenna, Adaeze went to the river as usual. But this time, the river was different. The water, which was always clear and calm in the early hours of the morning, was dark. Not dirty dark, deep dark. Small ripples moved across, even though there was no wind. No bird sang near the water. Even the frogs that were always loud at the bank were completely silent. Adaeze knelt down slowly. She looked into the water. Ohamiri was there. She was not smiling. Her face was full of pain, a deep, quiet sadness that made Adaeze's heart tighten. You did not listen, Ohamiri said softly. I told you to wait. Now, the wrong path has been chosen. I cannot stop what is coming, but I can help you survive it. That is, if you are brave enough. What is coming? Adaeze asked, with her voice shaking. The goddess reached one hand up through the water, and Adaeze saw that Ohamiri was holding a mirror, a beautiful ancient golden mirror with a frame carved all over with strange markings. The glass inside it shimmered with a light that did not come from the sun. Take this, Ohamiri said. When the time comes, you will know how to use it. Adaeze reached into the water, and with both hands, she touched the mirror. The mirror was ice cold, even though the river water was warm. She pulled it out and held it tightly against her chest. When she looked up, the goddess was already gone. The water was clear now. The birds began singing. Everything looked completely normal. But deep down, Adaeze knew that nothing was normal anymore. 3 days before her wedding, Adaeze held the mirror in her room. She pointed it at herself first, just to see. What she saw in the glass was not her own reflection. It was a woman standing in deep water, surrounded by bones. Adaeze stared at the image in the mirror for a long time. The woman she saw was standing in a dark water that reached her waist. The woman dressed exactly like herself, but all around the woman, half buried in the river mud, were bones, old bones, but some were not so old. The woman's face was calm. She was not screaming. She was not afraid. She was just standing there, surrounded by all those bones, looking straight ahead. Adaeze then realized, with a cold shock, that the woman in the mirror had her face. It was her. She saw a future version of herself. Immediately she lowered the mirror. Her hands were shaking. She sat on her sleeping mat and breathed slowly for a very long time. She almost took the mirror back to the river that night. Then another thought came to her to throw the mirror and run. But then she remembered Ohamiri's words. Do not run before I tell you to. So she hid the mirror under her sleeping mat and waited. 2 nights before her wedding, Ikenna came to visit her family compound as was the custom. He brought more drinks, more gifts. He laughed and talked with her father until very late. He was charming. He was warm. Everybody loved him. Adaeze sat with him in the outer room for a short time, as was allowed. She served him food. She smiled. She was polite. But under her wrapper, pressed against her body, hidden and cold, she had the mirror. When the moment came, when her mother went to the kitchen and her father stepped outside, and when it was just the two of them alone for a few minutes, Adaeze quietly brought out the mirror and held it up. She pointed it at Ikenna's face. She looked at the glass. In the mirror, Ikenna was not a man at all. He was a spirit, an Ogbanje, a water spirit that crosses the world of the living and the world of the dead. His body in the mirror was half human and half something that had no name. His chest was open, and inside it, instead of a heart, was a dark river flowing with no end. His eyes in the mirror were completely white, no pupils, no color, just white. He was not there for her love. He was there to take her across. He was going to bring her into the river world and keep her there. The bones she had seen in the mirror, those were the bones of the other women who had said yes to him before her. All 3 of them. Adaeze put the mirror down carefully. She kept her face completely still. She did not scream. She did not run. She remembered. Ikenna was still smiling at her across the room. The same warm, handsome smile. He had seen nothing. He did not know she had looked. He did not know that she knew. You are very quiet tonight, he said pleasantly. I am just thinking about the wedding. Her voice was perfectly calm. He smiled wider. Good. I am thinking about it too. But inside her chest, her heart was beating so fast, she was sure he could hear it. That night, when everyone was asleep, Adaeze went to the river. She knelt at the river bank and whispered, Ohamiri, I have seen it. I know what he is. Tell me what to do. The surface of the water lit up softly, the way fireflies light up, gentle and slow, and Ohamiri rose. Not just her reflection this time. The goddess herself came up to the surface. She stood in the water. The rivers flowed across her like a dress. She was tall. She was golden. She wore more beads and jewels than Adaeze had ever seen on a single person, and they were all real. They were all glowing with their own soft lights. Her head wrap was pure gold. Her skin was the color of midnight water under a full moon. She looked at Adaeze with eyes full of love and power. You were brave, Ohamiri said. You saw the truth and you did not break. That was the first test. Now, listen very carefully, because I will tell you the plan and you must follow it exactly as I say. If you change even one small part of it, I cannot protect you. Adaeze looked straight into the goddess's eyes and said, Tell me everything. And the river goddess spoke until the first light of dawn touched the sky. The wedding day arrived. The whole village gathered. The food was ready. Music was playing. Ikenna stood at the front, dressed in fine clothes, smiling his perfect smile, completely sure that by sunset, Adaeze would be his. He did not know that she had the mirror hidden inside her wrapper. He did not know that Ohamiri was watching from the river. He did not know that the most dangerous person at the wedding was the smiling bride. The wedding started well. Women sang, drums played, children ran between people's legs eating meat. Old men sat under a big tree drinking palm wine and arguing happily about nothing. The whole village of Nnewi had come out. It was the most beautiful wedding anyone had seen in years, because the bride herself was so beautiful and the groom was very handsome. Adaeze sat in the bride's place, dressed in all her finest things, her gold head wrap, her cowrie shells, her colorful wrapper. She looked like a queen. She was calm and still, and she smiled when people expected her to. But inside she was watching, counting and waiting for the exact moment Ohamiri had described. Ohamiri told her, he will try to seal the claim at the river. He must take you to the water. That is when the mirror must do its work. And sure enough, in the middle of the celebration, Ikenna leaned close to her and whispered warmly, Come, let us go to the river together for a moment. It is tradition in my family. The groom takes the bride to the water to give thanks. Adaeze had never heard of that tradition before, because of course it was not a real tradition, but a trap. She nodded quietly and stood up. They walked together toward Iyolu. The crowd did not notice. They were busy dancing and eating. Only one person watched them go, Adaeze's younger sister. She had a bad feeling in her stomach, but did not know why. When they reached the riverbank, Ikenna changed. It was not a sudden change. It was slow, like watching a mask slip sideways. His smile was still there, but it became something else. His eyes went from warm brown to pale. His voice dropped slow. The air around him became cold. You are mine now, he said simply. Step into the water, he told her. It was not a request, and the voice that said it was not fully human anymore. Adaeze looked at the river. The water was dark and waiting. Then she looked at Ikenna and said quietly, Look at yourself first. Then she brought out the mirror and held it directly in front of his face. For one single second, Ikenna looked into it. What happened next was not quiet. The mirror did not just show him his true self. It called his true self out. The Obanje spirit that had been living inside Ikenna's borrowed body let out a sound that was not a scream and not a roar. It was something between the two. Something that made the trees shake and the birds fly off from their branches all at once. Ikenna's body began to come apart at the edges, like a drawing being washed off paper by water. His fine clothing dissolved. His handsome face flickered and went wrong.
The dark river inside his chest that the mirror had shown before now burst open from the outside. Dark water poured out from his body as if he had been a bag that is now being emptied. The Iyiolu River, which had been calm and still, suddenly surged upward from its bank. The water wrapped around what was left of Ikena, that is, the dark spirit inside, and pulled it down into the deep bed of the river, where it had come from, where it has escaped from a long time ago and had been living in the world of the living ever since. Immediately, 3 soft lights rose up from the water. They appeared like candle flames and were floating on the surface of the water. They rose slowly, hovered for a moment above the water, and drifted upward into the bright afternoon sky until they were gone. The 3 soft lights represent the 3 women Ikena had married earlier. And Adaeze stood at the edge of the river, still holding the mirror. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The river was calm. The sun was shining. Everything was perfectly still. Then Adaeze looked down at the mirror in her hand. The glass had gone dark, completely black, like a window with no light behind it. Whatever power it had carried was spent. Its work was done. When Ohamiri rose one last time from the water, she looked at Adaeze with the same quiet, steady love she had always shown since Adaeze's childhood. You did well, the goddess said. You saw the truth and you did not break. You followed the plan and you did not run. You saved yourself and you freed 3 others who could not save themselves. What do I do now? Adaeze asked. Her voice was tired and small. Ohamiri smiled. The wide, warm smile that Adaeze had known since childhood. Now, you go back to your family. Tell them the wedding is cancelled. They will be angry at first. Let them be angry. The truth will come out slowly. It always does. And the right man will come. You will know him because when you hold the mirror up to his face, you will see exactly the same face that is standing in front of you. Nothing more, nothing less. A simple, honest man. That is what love actually looks like. Keep the mirror, she said finally. Pass it to your daughters and tell them this story. The Ohamiri then returned to the river and Adaeze walked back to the wedding alone. The villagers were confused. Where is Ikenna? What had happened? Why was the bride walking back alone, calm and quiet, holding a dark old mirror? She stood in the middle of the compound and spoke clearly so that everyone could hear her. She told them everything. Some people believed her. Some people did not. Her father was furious. 2 of her aunties fainted. But the old women, the oldest women in Nnewi, the ones who had remembered older stories, nodded when they heard the story. They had heard of the Ogbanje bride hunter before. They had prayed for years that Ohamiri would one day send someone strong enough to stop it. But they did not expect that the person would be a 20-year-old girl in a gold head wrap carrying a dark mirror. A year later, a young man called Chidi came to the village. He was a trader from the east, not rich, not particularly handsome, but his eyes were honest and his laugh was real. On the 3rd night of his visit, when no one was watching, Adaeze held the mirror up to his face. The glass was perfectly clear, and the only face looking back at her was his. She put the mirror away and smiled, and the next morning she told her father, this is the one. In the village of Nnewi, they still tell this story. They tell it to young women who are being rushed. They tell it to parents who push their children too fast. They tell it at the river when the water is too still and too quiet. The river sees everything. Ohamiri forgets nothing. And beauty, real beauty, is not what makes people stare at you.
If you watched this story to this point and you enjoy watching African folktale stories, subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notification icon so that you'll be among the first to get notified whenever we upload new videos. Once again, thank you. See you in my next video. Bye.